My girlfriend wanted a roommate, not a partner, so stopped providing for her because the relationship was over and she started panicking, apologizing and begging, but I was gone. The first time she said it, I thought I misheard her. We should start splitting everything 50-50, Lila said, scrolling through her phone like she was reading out a grocery list instead of dismantling a life we had built together. I stood in the kitchen, still holding 2 mugs of coffee, hers with almond milk, 1 sugar. Mine black, the same way it had been for 3 years. Everything? I asked, careful, measured. Rent too. She didn't look up. Yeah. I mean, it's only fair. We're basically roommates at this point. Roommates. The word didn't just land, it cut. I set her mug down slowly in front of her. Roommates don't build each other from nothing, I said quietly. Roommates don't carry rent for 8 months when one of them loses their job. That got her attention. She looked up, annoyed, not ashamed. Oh my God, are you seriously bringing that up again? She snapped. You chose to help me. I didn't force you. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because something inside me finally cracked into clarity. I had chosen to help her. I had chosen to believe in her when she was broke, crying on the floor of a 1-bedroom apartment she couldn't afford. I had chosen to work double shifts, cut my own expenses, and invest in her little online boutique when she said it was her dream. And now that her business was thriving, I was a roommate. Got it, I said. That was all. No argument. No raised voice. No drama. Because in that moment, something dangerous replaced the hurt. Understanding. The next few weeks were educational. When you stop being emotionally involved, you start seeing everything. Lila didn't just want equality, she wanted control. She started making house rules, dividing fridge space, labeling shelves, timing showers. It was subtle at first, disguised as fairness, but underneath it was something colder, detachment. She stopped asking how my day was, stopped cooking, stopped touching me, but she never stopped benefiting. She still used the Wi-Fi I paid for, still wore clothes I had helped fund, still took Uber rides from the business account I had quietly set up for her when she couldn't even open a bank account properly. And the biggest one? She never offered to return the money. Not once. That's when I started digging. Not in a paranoid, obsessive way. In a calm, surgical way. You see, Lila wasn't good with details. She never had been. She was vision and charm, but execution. That had always been me. And her business, it wasn't as independent as she thought. Every payment processor, every supplier contact, every marketing account, every back-end system, I had set them up. Under my email, my verification, my structure. She thought she owned her success, but she didn't understand the architecture behind it. And I had built it. The first real crack came on a Tuesday night. She came home late, dressed too well for someone, just meeting a friend. Perfume I didn't recognize. Energy that wasn't meant for me. Busy day? I asked casually, sitting on the couch. Yeah, she said, dropping her bag. Inventory stuff. I nodded. Must be exhausting. It is, she sighed. You wouldn't understand. I almost smiled. You wouldn't understand. Right. That night, when she went to shower, I opened her laptop. She never locked it. She never thought she needed to. Inside her messages, it didn't take long. There he was. Daniel. Investor. Mentor. Frequent late-night strategy sessions. And based on the messages, a lot more than that. I didn't read everything. I didn't need to. Just enough to confirm what I already knew. She hadn't just emotionally checked out. She had replaced me. Upgraded, in her mind. Someone with money. Connections. Status. I sat there in the dim light of the screen, feeling nothing. No rage. No heartbreak. Just confirmation. The relationship wasn't ending. It had already ended. She just hadn't told me. Because I was still useful. That was the moment everything changed. Not emotionally. Strategically. I stopped arguing. Stopped questioning. Stopped caring, at least on the surface. Instead, I observed. Tracked. Prepared. If she wanted a roommate, I was going to give her one. But not the kind she expected. I started small. Cutting off the silent benefits. First, the business account. I didn't shut it down, that would be obvious. I just adjusted access. Payment approvals now required secondary verification. My verification. Then suppliers. A few technical delays. A couple of system errors. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to slow things down. Create pressure. Confusion. Then came the financials. I began auditing everything. Every transaction. Every transfer. And that's when I found it. Daniel wasn't just a mentor. He was moving money through her business. Large amounts. Unreported. Structured in a way that screamed one thing. Laundering. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the screen. And for the first time, I smiled. Because this wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was leverage. The next morning, she was panicking. My payments aren't going through, she said, pacing the kitchen. Customers are complaining. This has never happened before. I sipped my coffee. Black. Calm. Did you check the back end? I asked. I don't know how to do that, she snapped. Of course you don't. Want me to take a look? I offered. She hesitated. Pride versus desperation. Desperation won. Please. That word. Funny how it comes back around. I nodded slowly. Sure. I'll see what I can do. And just like that, I was back in control. But this time, I wasn't building. I was dismantling. Piece by piece. And she had no idea. That night, as she sat beside me, watching anxiously as I fixed her system, I realized something important. Revenge isn't loud. It isn't explosive. It's quiet, precise, patient. And when done right, it doesn't just hurt. It rewrites the entire story. She thought I was her past, her stepping stone, her safety net. What she didn't realize was that I was also the foundation. And foundations, when removed carefully, don't just crack structures. They collapse them. Completely. Is it fixed? She asked softly. I looked at the screen, at the systems I had built, at the access I controlled, at the truth she had no idea I knew. Yeah, I said, closing the laptop. For now. She smiled, relieved. And for a brief moment, she reached for my hand. Instinct. Habit. Control. I let her touch me. Just long enough. Then I pulled away. Subtle. Final. Because the truth was, I was already gone. She just hadn't felt it yet. But she would. Soon. Very soon. And when it happened, it wouldn't be a fight. It wouldn't be a breakup. It would be something far worse. A realization that everything she thought she owned was never really hers. And the man she thought she had outgrown had already rewritten her ending. Without her even noticing, she wanted a roommate. So I became one. Silent. Observant. Temporary. Because soon, I wouldn't be living in her world anymore. I'd be the reason it stopped working. Completely. And Daniel? He had no idea what he'd just stepped into. But he would. Oh, he would. Very soon. The shift wasn't dramatic. That's the thing people misunderstand about control. It doesn't announce itself. It settles in quietly, like dust, until suddenly everything feels heavier. Within a week, Lila's business started stuttering. Orders delayed. Payments flagged. Suppliers accidentally missing shipments. Nothing catastrophic. Not yet. Just enough to destabilize her confidence. And confidence, that was her entire brand. Why is this happening? She muttered one night, pacing barefoot across the living room. Everything was fine. I watched her from the couch, my expression neutral, my mind 10 steps ahead. Systems get overloaded, I said calmly. Growth does that. She stopped. Looked at me like I was the only solid thing left in a room, slowly tilting. What should I do? There it was again. Dependence. I leaned forward slightly, resting my elbows on my knees. You need structure. Oversight. You scaled too fast. I didn't scale too fast, she snapped, defensive. Daniel said. She cut herself off. Too late. I tilted my head slightly. Daniel. She hesitated. Just someone helping me. I nodded like it meant nothing. But inside, everything sharpened. Then maybe Daniel should fix it, I said lightly, leaning back again. That hit. Not hard, but enough. Her lips pressed together. Her eyes flickered. Uncertainty, irritation, something else. Can you just help me? She said finally, softer now. Please. There it was again. Please. Funny how power shifts. I let the silence stretch just a little too long. Then I nodded. All right. Helping her wasn't about fixing things. It was about guiding her deeper into the maze. I streamlined her systems, but in ways that made her more reliant on centralized control. My control. I introduced security protocols, dual authentication, compliance checks, automated reporting. All of it looked professional, necessary, smart. But every road led back to me. Every decision required my approval. Every transaction passed through filters she didn't understand. And she trusted it, because it worked, at least on the surface. Meanwhile, I kept digging. Daniel wasn't sloppy, but he wasn't invisible either. Money trails always tell a story. You just have to know how to read them. I traced transactions through shell suppliers, overseas accounts, Fake invoices. It was clean enough to avoid casual scrutiny, but not clean enough to disappear under pressure. And the pressure? I was building it. Quietly. One evening, I accidentally left my laptop open on the dining table. A spreadsheet glowing on the screen. Numbers. Transfers. Flags. Lila noticed. Of course she did. What's that? She asked, stepping closer. I didn't look up immediately. Let curiosity pull her in. Just reviewing some irregularities, I said. Irregularities? Her voice tightened. In what? I turned the screen slightly toward her. Not everything. Just enough. Her business name. Transaction amounts. Highlighted entries. Her face changed. Subtle, but I saw it. Fear. What does that mean? She asked. It means, I said carefully, that money is moving through your business in ways that don't match your reported sales. That's impossible. Is it? Her silence answered for her. Lila, I continued, voice calm, controlled. Who has access to your financials? She swallowed. Just me and Daniel. There it was. I leaned back slowly. Then you might have a problem. That night, she didn't sleep. I could hear her moving, calling, whispering. At one point, she stepped onto the balcony, voice low but urgent. I told you everything was fine, she hissed. Now there are issues, real issues. A pause. I don't care what you said before, something's wrong. Another pause. Then quieter. Okay, just fix it. Fix it. I almost laughed. The next morning, she looked different. Not polished. Not confident. Unraveling. Daniel says it's just system errors, she said quickly, avoiding my eyes. Nothing serious. Of course he does, I replied. That made her look at me. Why do you say it like that? I held her gaze for a moment, then shrugged. Because if it's not a system error, it's fraud. The word hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Her face drained of color. Don't say that. But you thought it, I said quietly. She didn't respond. Because she had. That was the turning point. Fear is powerful. But uncertainty? That's what breaks people. Over the next few days, I escalated. Subtly, a flagged transaction triggered a compliance notice. An email, official-looking, structured, requesting documentation. Not from me. From the system. Automated. Unforgiving. She showed it to me, hands slightly shaking. What is this? Standard procedure, I said. When inconsistencies appear, platforms investigate. But I didn't do anything. Then you have nothing to worry about. But she did. Because deep down, she knew she wasn't fully in control. Daniel started pulling back. Fewer messages. Delayed responses. Short, dismissive replies. The confidence he had projected? Gone. And Lila felt it. Why is he acting like this? She asked one night, frustration bleeding through her voice. Maybe he's busy, I said. Or maybe, I added after a beat, he doesn't want to be associated with potential risk. That hit harder than anything before. Risk? She repeated. I looked at her then. Really looked. And for the first time, I let a hint of truth slip through. You trusted someone you didn't fully understand, I said quietly. And now your business, your name, is tied to whatever he's been doing. That's not fair, she whispered. Fair. The word almost made me smile. Neither was calling me a roommate, I said. Silence. Heavy. Final. That was the first time she realized this wasn't random. That something deeper was happening. That I wasn't just helping. You're doing this, she said suddenly, her voice trembling, not with anger, but realization. I didn't react. You're behind all of this. I stood up slowly, walked past her, calm, measured. If I wanted to destroy you, I said, pausing at the doorway, you wouldn't be standing here asking questions. I turned slightly, met her eyes. You'd already be finished. And then I walked away. That night, she knocked on my door. Not the bedroom we used to share. My room. Because somewhere along the line, I had already moved. Physically, emotionally, strategically. Can we talk? She asked softly. I opened the door just enough. What is it? Her eyes were red. Not from manipulation. From fear. I'm sorry, she said. There it was. The apology. Late. Unsteady. I didn't mean what I said before. About the roommate thing. I was just stressed. I didn't realize. Didn't realize what? I asked. How much you did for me. I studied her for a moment. Then nodded slowly. Now you do. She stepped closer. Please, don't let everything fall apart. I need your help. Need. Not want. Need. I exhaled quietly. As if considering. As if weighing options. Then I said the one thing that shattered whatever illusion she still had left. The relationship is over, Lila. Her face crumpled slightly. But we can still fix this, she said quickly. We can go back to how things were. No, I said simply. Because we couldn't. And I wouldn't. You wanted a roommate, I continued. So that's what you got. Her lips trembled. Don't do this. I'm not doing anything, I said. I'm just no longer doing everything. That difference? It terrified her. Over the next week, things unraveled faster. Without my silent support, her systems became unpredictable. The compliance checks intensified. Accounts temporarily restricted. Suppliers demanding clarity. Customers complaining. And Daniel? Gone. No calls. No messages. No rescue. She broke one night. Fully. Came into the living room while I was working. Dropped to her knees in front of me. I messed up, she said, voice shaking. I trusted the wrong person. I pushed away the only person who actually cared about me. I closed my laptop slowly. Looked at her. Really looked. And for a moment, I saw the girl I had once built a life with. Vulnerable. Human. Too late. I can fix this, she said desperately. Just tell me what to do. I'll do anything. Anything. That word lingered. But I didn't need anything from her anymore. That was the difference. That was the power. I stood up. Walked past her. Picked up my jacket. Where are you going? She asked, panic rising. I paused at the door. Then said, without turning back, to finish this. And walked out. Because the truth was, this was never just about her. Or the relationship. It was about Daniel. About the money. About the system he thought no one understood. But I did. And I had everything I needed now. Evidence. Access. Timing. He thought he was untouchable. Hidden behind other people's businesses. Using them as shields. As fronts. Lila was just one of them. Not special. Not protected. Just convenient. But he made one mistake. He stepped into my system. And now, I was about to pull the entire thing apart. Publicly. Permanently. And when it happened, Lila would understand something she never saw before. I didn't leave because I was weak. I left because I was done. And there's nothing more dangerous than someone who has nothing left to prove. The building didn't look like the kind of place where lives unraveled. Glass walls. Clean lines. Polished floors that reflected confidence back at anyone walking in. Daniel liked places like this. Spaces that made everything feel legitimate. Respectable. Untouchable. I stepped through the revolving doors just after 9 a.m., blending in with executives and assistants, all carrying coffee and purpose. No one stopped me. No one questioned me. Because I looked like I belonged. That was always my advantage. The invitation had been easy to get. Daniel was hosting a private investor briefing. Something exclusive, something polished, something designed to attract more money into whatever machine he was running behind the scenes. And Lila's business? It was on the presentation list. A success story. I almost appreciated the irony. Inside the conference room, everything was already set. Large digital screen. Minimalist seating. Soft murmurs of early conversations. Daniel stood near the front, laughing with two men in tailored suits. Confident. Relaxed. Completely unaware. He looked exactly like the kind of man people trusted. That was his real skill. Not intelligence. Not strategy. Presentation. I took a seat near the back. Unnoticed. Exactly where I needed to be. From there, I could see everything. The investors. The assistants. The quiet cameras set up for recording the session. And Daniel. Right at the center of it all. The presentation started smoothly. Charts. Growth curves. Buzzwords. Everything performing exactly as expected. Then Lila's business came up. Her brand logo filled the screen. Her numbers carefully curated displayed in bold. An example of rapid, scalable success, Daniel said, pacing confidently. A brand that leveraged digital infrastructure to achieve exponential growth in under a year. I watched him speak, listened to the rhythm of his voice, the certainty, the control, and I waited. Timing isn't about patience. It's about precision. And when the moment came, I stood up. Interesting, I said, my voice cutting cleanly through the room. Daniel paused. The room followed. Eyes turned. Attention shifted. Exactly as planned. Yes, Daniel said, polite but tight. Do you have a question? I took a few steps forward. Calm. Measured. I do, I said. Could you explain how those growth numbers align with the unreported financial movements tied to this business? Silence. Not confusion. Not yet. Just silence. Daniel smiled faintly. I'm not sure I understand what you're implying. Of course you do, I replied. And then I connected my laptop to the main display. The screen flickered, then changed. No more curated slides. No more polished charts. Just raw data. Transactions. Highlighted transfers. Account trails. The truth. This, I said, pointing at the screen, is the actual financial activity linked to the business you just presented. Murmurs began, quiet at first, then growing. Daniel's expression shifted just slightly, but I saw it. That flicker, that crack. You're out of line, he said, stepping forward. This is a private event. No, I said calmly. This is a public problem. I clicked again. More data appeared. Cross-referenced accounts. Shell suppliers. Patterns that were impossible to ignore once you saw them. Funds moving through intermediary accounts. I continued. Structured to avoid detection. Routed through small businesses that don't have the infrastructure to question it. I paused, then looked directly at him. You didn't build businesses, Daniel. You hid behind them. The room had shifted now. Investors weren't relaxed anymore. They were alert, focused, watching, calculating. Exactly what I wanted. This is absurd, Daniel snapped. You have no authority to present this information. I don't need authority, I said. I have evidence. And then I dropped the final piece. Emails, messages, his communication with Lila, instructions, specific, clear, damning. You used her business, I said quietly, and others like it. You moved money through them because they were small enough to go unnoticed and inexperienced enough not to ask questions. I let that settle, then added, but systems remember. That's when the doors opened. Not dramatically, not loudly, just decisively. Two officials stepped inside, followed by another. Professional, calm, focused, the kind of presence that doesn't need to announce itself. The room went completely still. Daniel turned slightly, his composure finally slipping. What is this? He demanded. One of the officials stepped forward. Daniel Hayes, he said evenly. We need you to come with us. No shouting, no chaos, just inevitability. Daniel looked around the room, at the investors, at the screen, at me, and for the first time, he understood, not just what was happening, but who had done it. This isn't over, he said under his breath as they approached him. I held his gaze. It already is. They escorted him out. No resistance. Because men like Daniel don't fight when the illusion breaks. They freeze. Because everything they built depends on perception. And once that's gone, there's nothing left to stand on. The room didn't recover. Not immediately. Investors started talking. Phones came out. Messages sent. Decisions being made in real time. Fast. Efficient. Cold. I disconnected my laptop, closed it, and walked out the same way I walked in. Unnoticed. Because my part was done. By the time I got back to the apartment, it was already over. For her too. Lila was sitting on the floor. Same place I had once found her months ago. But this time, there was no one coming to build her back up. Her laptop sat open in front of her. Emails flooding in. Accounts suspended. Partnerships terminated. Payment processors frozen. Everything collapsing. All at once. She looked up when I walked in. Eyes swollen. Voice empty. What did you do? I set my keys down calmly. Nothing you didn't already set in motion. That's not true, she said, shaking her head. You knew. You let this happen. I met her gaze. No, I said quietly. I stopped protecting you from it. That difference? It hit harder than anything else. Tears spilled down her face. I didn't know, she whispered. I know, I replied. And I meant it. She didn't know the full extent. She just knew enough to benefit, and chose not to question it. I lost everything, she said, her voice breaking. I looked around the apartment. At the furniture, the space, the life we had built. Not everything, I said. She followed my gaze, then looked back at me. And that's when it finally landed. Fully, completely. You're leaving, she said. It wasn't a question. I nodded. I already did. She stood up slowly, like gravity had changed. Please, she said, stepping toward me. We can fix this. We can start over. Start over. The same words. Different weight. I shook my head. No, Lila. Why? She cried. I said I'm sorry. I held her gaze. Calm. Certain. Because you didn't want a partner, I said. You wanted convenience. Her expression shattered. And now, I continued, you don't have either. I picked up my bag, walked to the door, opened it, then paused. Not for her. For myself. Closure isn't about what you say at the end. It's about what you don't carry forward. I hope you figure it out, I said without turning back. And then I left. Weeks later, everything settled into place. Daniel's case moved quickly. Evidence does that. Investors distanced themselves. Authorities built their case. And the network he had carefully constructed collapsed, exactly the way it was designed to. As for Lila, her business never recovered. Not because it couldn't, but because it was never really hers to begin with. She had built the image. I had built the structure. And without that structure, there was nothing left to stand on. I didn't go back, didn't check in, didn't look back. Because revenge was never the goal. Clarity was. And I had it. Completely. I moved into a new place. Smaller. Quieter. Mine. Started rebuilding not from anger, not from loss, but from intention. Because the truth is, losing people who only value you for what you provide isn't loss. It's correction. Sometimes I think about that moment. In the kitchen, when she called me a roommate. And I realize now, she was right. Just not in the way she meant. I had been living in a space where I didn't belong anymore. Giving more than I was receiving. Building something that wasn't built to last. So I became what she asked for. A roommate. Temporary. Detached. Already halfway gone. And when I finally left, I didn't take anything that wasn't mine. Just my time. My effort. My value. And that was everything. Because in the end, the most powerful revenge isn't destruction. It's withdrawal. When you remove your presence from something that depended on it and watch it collapse under its own weight. Quietly. Completely. And without ever needing to look back.